Have you ever noticed something about someone? A subtle shift in their tone, a pattern in how they respond when stressed, a repetition in the way they protect themselves, and then wondered if you're reading too much into it. You see the shape of something? Not loud, not obvious, just there. And then you question yourself. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I'm making it bigger than it is. Maybe I'm the problem for noticing. But the thing is, you've been right before. Not in a way you could prove, not in a way anyone else saw. But later, weeks or months down the line, the pattern you sensed played out exactly as you felt it would. And still, you told yourself you were overthinking. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes with seeing things other people don't. Not dramatic things. Not obvious red flags that everyone agrees on. Just patterns, inconsistencies. The way someone's energy shifts when a certain topic comes up. The way they phrase things when they're hiding something. The gap between what they say and what they mean. You notice it, you feel it, and then you talk yourself out of it. Because noticing makes you different. And being different feels uncomfortable, so you learn to question your own perception. You learn to dismiss what you sense. You learn to call it overthinking, even when every part of you knows you're right. Carl Jung spent his life studying the space between what we see and what we sense. He called it the unconscious, not a place of chaos, but a place of pattern, a deeper intelligence that speaks in symbols, repetitions, archetypes. He believed that what most people dismiss as overthinking is often the psyche doing exactly what it's designed to do, recognize what's hidden beneath the surface. He understood that the unconscious mind processes information faster than the conscious mind can keep up with. It picks up on micro-expressions, tonal shifts, behavioral patterns, things that never make it into conscious awareness but register nonetheless. And when those unconscious observations conflict with what we want to believe consciously, the mind doesn't stop. It loops. It analyzes. It tries to reconcile the gap. That's not overthinking. That's your psyche refusing to accept a false narrative. The question isn't whether you're thinking too much. The question is whether you trust what you're noticing. She's in a meeting. Her manager is presenting a new direction for the team. The tone is positive. The words are supportive. Everyone nods. There's even a joke that lands well, but she notices something. The way he paused before saying, "We're all in this together." The slight tightness in his voice when someone asked about timelines. The fact that he didn't make eye contact with her when he mentioned restructuring responsibilities. It's small. So small that no one else seems to register it. The woman next to her is taking notes. The guy across the table is smiling. Everyone seems fine. But she's not fine. She feels a tension in her chest. A quiet alarm her body is responding to, even though her mind can't articulate why. She walks out of the meeting and feels uneasy. Nothing was said. Nothing was wrong. But something felt off. She tries to shake it. Tells herself she's being paranoid. After all, what evidence does she have? A pause? A lack of eye contact? That's not proof. That's not reasonable. Later that night, she replays the meeting in her head, frame by frame, word by word. She questions herself. Was she reading into it? Was she projecting her own anxiety? Maybe she's just tired. Maybe she's overthinking again. She knows what people would say if she mentioned it. You're being too sensitive. You're imagining things. Not everything is a conspiracy. So she keeps it to herself. But the feeling doesn't leave. And 3 weeks later, she gets the email. The one about restructuring. The one that explains what he couldn't say in the meeting. She wasn't overthinking. She was reading the room better than anyone else in it. Jung would say she's not overthinking, she's reading the unconscious. He believed that beneath our conscious communication, the words, the explanations, the surface-level interactions, there's a deeper layer where truth actually lives. The unconscious doesn't lie. It reveals itself in tone, in pauses, in body language, in what's not said. Jung studied what he called synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that can't be explained by logic alone. But he also understood something simpler. The human psyche is constantly processing more information than we consciously realize. Your nervous system picks up micro-expressions in milliseconds. Your body registers shifts in energy before your mind has words for them. Your unconscious mind tracks patterns across weeks, months, years, and then sends you a signal when something doesn't align. That signal isn't anxiety, it's intelligence. What she sensed in that meeting wasn't paranoia, it was pattern recognition. Her psyche was picking up on incongruence, a misalignment between the conscious message and the unconscious signal. And that discomfort she felt afterward? That wasn't anxiety. That was her inner system saying, something here doesn't match. Jung called this the shadow, the part of reality people don't want to acknowledge, so they hide it, even from themselves. Not out of malice. Often not even consciously. But the shadow is always there, leaking through the edges of what people say and do. And the people who notice the shadow? They're not overthinking. They're just awake. Jung believed that most people live their entire lives never questioning the narratives they're told. They accept surface explanations. They trust what's comfortable. They dismiss their own instincts because instincts can't be proven in a PowerPoint presentation. But depth doesn't come from accepting the surface. It comes from trusting what you notice underneath. He's been in the same friendship for years. It's easy, comfortable. They have history, but lately something shifted. His friend cancels plans more often. Not dramatically, just frequently. Always with a reason. Always apologetic. But it's become a pattern, and when they do meet up, the conversation feels different. Surface level. Polite. His friend talks a lot about other people, new friends, new projects, new routines, but never really asks about him. At first, he made excuses. Everyone gets busy. Life happens. People go through phases, but then he started noticing the details. His friend responds to other people's messages in group chats immediately. Posts on social media about weekend plans he's never mentioned. Talks about inside jokes from gatherings he wasn't invited to. He notices, and then he wonders, am I being too sensitive? Am I expecting too much? Maybe people just get busy. Maybe I'm overthinking the distance. But deep down, he knows, this isn't about one canceled plan. This isn't about being too busy. It's about a slow, quiet withdrawal. A friendship that's fading without ever being acknowledged. And the hardest part isn't the fading itself. It's the silence around it. The fact that they still text occasionally, still say they should meet up, still perform the gestures of friendship without the substance of it. It's the pretending that nothing has changed when everything has. What if it's not about being too sensitive? What if the real tension is between what he's sensing and what he's allowing himself to believe? What if he's been overthinking not because he's wrong, but because he's right, and no one else is willing to say it? Jung believed that the psyche is constantly compensating for what the conscious mind refuses to see. When we ignore a truth, because it's uncomfortable, because it challenges our identity, because acknowledging it would force us to act, the unconscious responds. It sends signals, dreams, intuitions, unshakable feelings we can't explain. This is why overthinking often feels obsessive. Not because the mind is broken, but because it's trying to reconcile two realities. The one we want to believe, and the one we unconsciously know is true. Jung called this the tension between the persona and the self. The persona is the mask we wear to fit in, to be accepted, to keep things smooth. It's the part of us that says, don't make it awkward, don't be paranoid. Give them the benefit of the doubt. The persona wants harmony, even if that harmony is built on denial. The self, Jung's term for the true integrated psyche, knows better. The self sees the whole picture. It doesn't lie to preserve comfort. It doesn't ignore patterns to maintain social ease. It simply observes what is, not what we wish were true. And when the persona and the self are in conflict, the mind doesn't rest. It loops, it analyzes, it replays conversations, it searches for evidence. Not because it's malfunctioning, but because it's trying to integrate what the conscious mind is resisting. Jung called this process individuation, the journey towards psychological wholeness. And he believed that it always involves discomfort, because wholeness requires seeing things we'd rather not see, accepting truths we'd rather deny, letting go of identities we've built around being agreeable, understanding, or unbothered. Overthinking isn't the problem. Ignoring what you know, that's the problem. The psyche will keep looping, keep analyzing, keep pulling your attention back to the unresolved tension until you're willing to face what you already sense. And here's what Jung understood that most people miss. The goal isn't to stop the loop by forcing yourself not to think about it. The goal is to resolve the loop by acknowledging the truth the loop is pointing you toward. Once you see it clearly, once you stop dismissing it, minimizing it, or explaining it away, the obsessive thinking naturally quiets. Not because you've suppressed it, but because you've integrated it. She's lying in bed, scrolling through her phone. A message sits unanswered in her thread with someone she used to talk to every day. It's been 3 weeks. She told herself she'd reply. She told herself she was just busy. But the truth is quieter than that. She doesn't want to reply. Not because she's angry, not because something happened, just because the connection doesn't feel the same anymore, and replying would mean pretending it does. She's been avoiding the thought, telling herself it's temporary, that she's just in a weird headspace, that the friendship will click back into place once life calms down. But life has calmed down, and she still doesn't want to reply. She's been overthinking it for weeks, analyzing why the friendship feels different, wondering if she's being unfair, questioning whether she's expecting too much or being too distant or creating problems that don't exist. But here, in the silence, she lets herself feel it. Maybe this friendship has run its course. Maybe it's okay that it has. Maybe the overthinking was just her trying to avoid saying that out loud. Because admitting it feels like failure. Like she's a bad friend. Like she's the one who gave up. But Jung would say something different. He'd say that relationships have seasons. That some connections are meant to last forever. And some are meant to teach you something and then fade. That honoring what's true now doesn't negate what was true before. She's not overthinking the friendship. She's grieving it. And the mind doesn't know how to grieve something that's still technically alive. Jung believed that wholeness comes from integration, from bringing what's unconscious into consciousness. Not to fix it, not to judge it, just to see it clearly. He spent decades working with people who felt broken because they couldn't stop thinking about something, couldn't let go of a relationship that ended, couldn't shake a feeling about someone, couldn't stop replaying a conversation. And what he discovered was this: the thinking wasn't the problem. The resistance to what the thinking was revealing, that was the problem. When we stop labeling our awareness as overthinking, something shifts. We're no longer fighting our own perception. We're no longer dismissing what we sense. We're allowing the psyche to do what it does naturally: recognize patterns, protect us from incongruence, and guide us toward honesty. The goal isn't to stop thinking. The goal is to trust what you're noticing, and then decide what to do with it. Sometimes that means having a conversation. Sometimes it means setting a boundary. Sometimes it means letting go of something that no longer fits. But it always starts with the same thing: believing yourself. Jung said the psyche speaks in symbols because the conscious mind resists direct truth. It needs metaphor. It needs time. It needs the slow unfolding of recognition. Overthinking is just that process. It's not a disorder. It's not a weakness. It's the psyche trying to show you what you're not ready to see yet. And when you stop resisting it, when you stop pathologizing your own awareness, the loop finally quiets, not because you've stopped thinking, but because you've started listening. Jung also understood that integration doesn't mean immediate action. Sometimes you see the truth months before you're ready to act on it. Sometimes you sense a pattern years before you know what to do with it. That's not overthinking either. That's preparation. The psyche is giving you time to adjust, to grieve, to build the strength you'll need when the time comes to make the change. And the people who trust that process, who honor their own pace, who don't rush themselves into clarity they're not ready for, those are the people who eventually find their way to solid ground, not through force, through patience with their own unfolding. You're not overthinking. You're noticing what others choose not to see, and that's not a flaw. That's depth. Jung spent his life reminding people that the unconscious isn't the enemy. It's the part of you that knows things before you're ready to admit them. It's the part that senses truth beneath the surface. It's the part that refuses to let you live in denial, even when denial feels safer. He believed that modern culture teaches us to distrust our own depth, to dismiss intuition as irrational, to privilege logic over felt sense, to pathologize sensitivity and call awareness paranoia. But depth isn't a disorder. Sensitivity isn't weakness. And noticing patterns that others miss isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that you're paying attention. Overthinking doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're awake in a world that prefers to stay asleep. And maybe the real question isn't how to stop thinking so much. Maybe it's how to start trusting what you already know. Jung understood that the people who see beneath the surface often feel alone, because depth isn't always rewarded. Awareness isn't always welcomed. And telling the truth about what you notice can make others uncomfortable. But the alternative, pretending you don't see what you see, dismissing your own intelligence, shrinking your awareness to fit other people's comfort, that costs more. It costs your integrity, your self-trust, your ability to navigate the world with clarity. And Jung would tell you, that's too high a price. You don't need permission to see clearly. You just need to stop apologizing for it. The world might call it overthinking, but you can call it what it actually is: paying attention.